Hey everyone, and welcome back to session 18 of the Revolution Mindset Program, the 4 Laws of Habit Building. Today we're going to expand on our last session where we looked at habits, the habits that we can start to adopt, and we're going to move on today to look at the 4 Laws of Habit Building. If you're tuned in, please say hi, let me know you're here, drop a comment in the comments box below, and as always, please share your achievements with us today. We need to keep that momentum going. We need to keep that good energy flowing. And whilst I'm waiting for all the comments to come through and your achievements, I'm going to celebrate them all with you now with some confetti there. So absolutely a huge well done to what you've achieved. No matter how big or how small it's been over the past week, let us know. Put it in the comments box so we can celebrate with you. So what are we going to be looking at today? How are we going to extend this module and these 4 weeks that we have on habits? Well, first of all, we're going to look at how long does it take to actually build a habit. This is an important thing for us to consider when we're setting out to implement new habits into our life. The second thing we're going to look at is the 4 stages of a habit. We need to look at the 4 stages of a habit in order for us to understand the 4 laws of habit building, which we're then going to cover in today's session, and we're then going to take it even deeper in our practical workshop at 6 p.m. UK time, which is in about 25 minutes to half an hour's time. So let's take a look at the key learning from our last session. So our key learning from our last session was our habits are what shape our reality. With small short-term changes, we can create long-term success. So I'll say that again, with small short-term changes, we can create long-term success. So the small habits that we implement into our days can tee us up and set us up through consistency for long-term success. That's what we looked at in our last session, in session 17. So today, let's start off with a quote from James Clear. So if any of you have not seen this work, then this is going to be new to you today. What we're learning today is going to be absolutely fantastic. If you have read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, then this is going to be a nice refresher from you. You can share your input, you can share what you learned, you can share your perspectives on the concepts that we're going to share today. So a lot of the work that's come from today has come from James Clear in his book Atomic Habits. I just want to open up with this first quote, which says that every action you take is a vote for the person you wish to become. Every action you take is a vote for the person you wish to become. So every good action we take, every good habit that we implement into our lives moves us towards becoming a better person. Every bad habit we have, every bad action we take is a vote that moves us towards becoming more of a negative person or a unproductive person or whatever it is that's stopping us, but it's not moving us in the right direction. So with that in mind, we need to think about our habits. We need to think, do we have more good habits than bad habits? How do we start to remove those bad habits? How do we start to implement and build these new habits into our life so we can become a better person? Remember, short-term habits, short-term actions can lead to long-term success. So the first question I have for you, and give you a moment to drop this in the comments box below, is how long does it take to implement a habit? How long do you think? Do you think it's 5 days, 7 days, 15 days, 25 days, 33 days, 66 days? How many days do you think it takes to implement a habit? Drop it in the comments box below. I would love to hear from you. And if you're watching the replay, I will get back to each and every comment or question that you put into that box. So think, how long does it take to implement a habit? Now, whilst you're answering that, here are some proposed lengths of time. So when you read text, scriptures, personal development books, books on habits, there's a number of different days suggested. Some people say 15 days, some people say 21 days, some people say 30 days, some people say 60. I've heard 66 before, I've heard 33. Lots of different perspectives, lots of different thoughts out there on how long it takes to implement a habit. However, the truth behind it all is that there is no defined time. And the reason why I'm saying this is because 1, it depends on you. 2, it depends on the habit that you're trying to implement. And 3, It depends on your level of self-discipline. Now, it depends on us because it depends on where we're at on our growth, how many good habits and how much practice we've had at implementing good habits into our life. Obviously, the more we do it, the easier it becomes to build and implement new habits. The habit itself, is it a small habit or is it a long habit? Or you want to go out and jog for 5-10 minutes a day, or you want to go out and jog 45 minutes a day. It's going to take longer to get to that 45 mark and to make it a daily habit. So it depends on the habit. If it's a smaller habit, it's going to take a lot less time. If it's a big habit, it's going to take more time. And finally, your level of self-discipline. We have different levels of self-discipline. We have peaks and troughs in our level of self-discipline. The more disciplined we are, the easier it is to build in that habit and the quicker it's going to be. And if we have lack of self-discipline, it's going to be more difficult. It's going to take us longer to implement that habit. So there's no defined time. It depends on us, the habit, and our level of self-discipline. Now, if you had practice, as I mentioned, you've already got some good habits in, you already work out every day. Adding new habits is going to be easier. It's going to be a lot faster. So make habit building, good habit building, a practice, and you'll start to be able to implement new habits a lot quicker. So next question for you to reflect on and to drop in the comments box is, where are you failing with your habit or habits right now? Where do you feel like you're failing with them? Maybe you're trying to implement something new. What is it that you lack? Are you lacking self-discipline? Are you lacking an understanding of the habit? Are you lacking effort? Or are you just trying to implement the wrong habits? What do you think? Where do you think you are failing with your habit right now? Let me know what habits you're trying to install, and let me know where you think that barrier is. Drop it in the comments box below. And the reason why I asked that is because the first thing we're going to look at, we've already looked at how long it takes to implement a habit, but in order for us to start to build new habits successfully, we need to understand how habits are structured. And there's 4 stages of habits as introduced by James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits. And those are cue, craving, response, and reward. And then you can see that this happens over time. Or we can see that this is a cycle of a habit. I've seen this as a cycle. So you have, first of all, you have the cue, which is our brain's response. For example, let's take an example to go through this habit here of eating chocolate, the habit of eating chocolate. We get a cue in our mind, we see some chocolate, we hear someone mention chocolate, we get a cue in our brain that there's a chocolate. That cue then turns into a craving, which is a desire, that want. We want to eat that chocolate, we want to find that chocolate, we want to buy that chocolate. We have a craving, a desire to eat that chocolate. So that's the second part of the habit building. From that desire, we decide to respond, which is stage 3, the response. So we go out, we buy a chocolate bar, we go to the fridge if we've got one in the fridge, or in the cupboard wherever we store them, or maybe we've got one close by. We take the chocolate, we buy the chocolate, we eat it. That is the response. And then from that response, we get a reward. We get a reward from eating that chocolate, which is that good feeling, that good sense of taste, the taste that chocolate gives us. So the reward is satisfaction from eating that chocolate. And every single habit, whether we're trying to remove a habit, so habits that we already have that exist, they go through this cycle. You could put smoking into here for bad habits. You could put exercise for good habits, healthy eating. Any new habit we also want to install, we can use these 4 stages of habits to our advantage. So we can learn the 4 laws of habit building to turn this cycle of a habit in our favor, to make it easier for us to implement new habits or easier for us to remove those bad habits. So let's take a look at the 4 laws. But the first thing I want to mention is that we need to choose and implement our habits wisely, because they play a huge part in defining who we are. So choose and implement your habits wisely. They play a huge part in defining us. So just think about that. Think about the habits that you actually want to build in, the habits that you currently have, and who you are as a person, because it does shape who we become. We talked about that earlier on. But how do you make your habits easier? How do you make them easier? Let me know in the comments box. How do you make your habits easier? Or how do you make your habits more obvious? Let me know. Just a thought and a reflection. Drop it in the comments box. Because the reason why I'm asking, why I'm waiting for the responses to come through, is because law 1 of habit building is making our habits obvious. This is the cue part of that cycle, how we turn the cue part to our advantage. So we can play it to our advantage by making cues for the habits we want to install obvious and the cues for the habits we want to delete hidden. Now, what do we mean by this? By making it obvious, let's say, for example, we want to implement a habit of healthy eating. We want to stop eating loads of chocolate and sweets and all that sort of stuff. Then the best way to do this, the best way to start to implement that habit is to remove chocolate from your sight, remove chocolate from your refrigerator, remove chocolate from your cupboards, keep it away, remove it out of your house, make it hidden. The more hidden it is, the more difficult it is to get access to chocolate or see those cues that you want chocolate, is going to make it easier for you to delete it. On the flip side, if you want to make a new habit obvious, you can start to put the healthy food in the fridge, make it visible, make it there. So the cues that you see are more there. It's obvious. You see it on a day-to-day basis. So law one, in order to really implement a new habit, is to make it obvious. Play the cue to your advantage and make the cues for the habits you want to install obvious and the cues for the habits you want to delete hidden. So moving on to law two, the next question I have for you is, how attractive are your habits? So the habits that you're trying to install right now, how attracted to them are you? Are you a little bit attracted? Are you very attracted? Are you not attracted to them at all, but you've just been told by somebody else that you need to implement this habit because it's really great for your life? Just take a moment to reflect on that. How attractive are your habits? And whilst I'm waiting, I'm going to explain law two. Law two is make it attractive. And this is all about turning the craving stage of the habit into our favor, understanding the craving part. And here, it's playing the craving to our advantage by making the new habits you want to implement attractive and the bad habits you want to remove ugly. So if you want to remove smoking, one of the biggest things they're trying to do in the UK to stop the habit of smoking is you'll see the pictures, and I think it's getting worldwide now as well. I've seen a few here in Colombia, but when you get a cigarette packet, there'll be a picture of a kind of part of the body, a lung or something like that, that the effects that smoking is having on people, and that's there to deter you from it. It's making it less attractive. So think of the habits you want to delete and how you can start to make them unattractive, so you're not attracted to that habit anymore. And then think about the habits that you want to put into your life. How do you start to make them more attractive? How do you start to connect them with other habits that you have? And we're going to talk about tips and tricks in the next session, but just think about how you can make your habits more attractive. That's law two. Law three, before we jump into that, the next question for you to drop an answer in the comments box is, how easy are your new habits to perform? How easy are they? Are they difficult? Are you setting a time that's too high? Are you setting habits that you just don't have the resources for, the motivation for? How easy are you making these new habits? And the reason why I'm asking this question, and whilst you drop the responses in the comments box below, is because law three is all about making it easy. This is playing the response, our action that we take. We used chocolate as an example earlier on, the eating and the taking, the buying, the action that we take behind that. This is the law three stage, the third stage, which is all about making it easy. How do we play this to our advantage? So we play the response to our advantage by making the habits we want to implement easy to perform and the habits we want to delete hard to perform. So, for example, if you want to remove smoking from your life, you want to stop smoking, get rid of as we're turning on, make the cues hidden, but also make it difficult for yourself to get cigarettes. Make it difficult for yourself to have access. If you want to implement a good habit, let's say you want to go jogging every morning, make it easy for yourself. Prepare your things the night before, lay out your shorts, your joggers, your t-shirt, your trainers, put it next to your bed so you can, or even sleep in it. If you want to go the next level, sleep in the outfit that you're going to run in the next day. So when you wake up, you already have it there. Think of ways in which you can make the habit you want to install easy. One of my personal experiences on this is I want to implement the habit of reading every night before bed. I made sure I kept the book that I was reading on the nightstand, on the little table next to my bed. So every time I got into bed, I'd see it and I'd pick it up. Don't keep it and put it back on the shelf. Don't keep it somewhere out of sight. keep things in sight. That also helped me play with the cue because I got the cue to do it, and then I picked it up and I played it to respond. So it was easy, it was obvious, and it was attractive because it was one of the books that I want to read as well. So think about how you can implement this law 3. And finally, law 4, how satisfying are your new habits? So the new habits that you're trying to implement, that you've been working on, maybe you've been working on for a week, 2 weeks, months, you still haven't managed to master it yet. How satisfying are they? What rewards are you getting from your habit? And whilst you drop the comments in the comments box below, I just want to talk about law 4. So law 4 is all about how we make it satisfying. And this is playing stage 4 in the habit cycle, which is the reward side, the reward that we get to our advantage. And we play that to our advantage by making the habits we want to implement satisfying and the habits that we want to delete unsatisfying. Now, it's a lot more difficult to remove habits. We need to put discipline, we need to be creative, we need to think about how we make them unsatisfying, but we need to make the ones that we get, the ones that we want to install, more satisfying. So how can we make it more rewarding? How can we get satisfied? How do you reward yourself when you complete that task, that jogging, that yoga, the reading, the journaling, whatever it is you're trying to implement, the meditation? How do you start to make it more satisfying? And it can be simple things like trying to buy, things can attract you to it and make it more satisfying. By buying things that go alongside it, making sure you give yourself a reward every time you hit, say, 5 or 10 days. Start thinking about how you can get creative and making your new habits satisfying. So that's the 4 laws of habit building. We've gone through it really quickly and briefly here. I'm hoping there's a lot coming on in the comments box. I'm going to get back to your comments, don't worry, but we are going to go into the workshop in a few minutes' time to go into this deeper. But for today, we just need to take away and remember the 4 stages of a habit, which is cue, craving, response, and reward, and the 4 laws that sit behind those stages of habit that we can shape and use to our advantage to help us implement our new habits very easily, and equally use this to remove the bad habits that we want to delete. And those 4 laws are: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. And maybe we can come up with some ideas that ties in all four of those laws, but just get creative and let me know what you're thinking and what your reflections are in the comments box below. And we're going to take this to a discussion in our practical workshop, the workshop side of putting it into practice here at the Revolution Mindset program. So the week challenge before we say goodbye is list all your good and bad habits and reflect on the changes that you need to make. Consider the 4 laws of habit building. So now that you understand how a habit's structured, now you understand the 4 laws, list your good and bad habits and reflect on where you can make the changes. Where do you need to make it less attractive or unsatisfying? Where do you need to make it more attractive? Where do you need to make it more easy? Go through the list and think about the changes that you need to make. And in the workshop today, we're going to look at understanding our habits. We're going to do a habit analysis. We're then going to go through a habit reflection tool, and we're also going to develop an action plan from that, as always, so we can put what we're learning into practice and make these habits a lot easier to really implement. And remember, in the last session, we looked at the 5 revolutionary habits, and think about the new habits in terms of those 5 revolutionary ones that you can implement and how you can put the 4 laws to it as well. And if you're looking and interested in the next session next Tuesday, week 19 is tips and tricks for new habits. So how do we make it easier? How do we make it more obvious? How do we make it more attractive? And how do we make it more satisfying? We're going to go deep into this next week. We're going to look at some strategies, some tips and tricks on how you can do that. We just talked about it today, and you can become a revolutioner. So if you've missed any of the previous sessions, we're now on session 18. You can catch all the replays, all the workshops, all the articles, all the materials, all the tools in my coaching room. If you become a revolutioner, you can join it at hub.coachingminds.co.uk. You can find my coaching room, join, and connect with me to support you on this journey to your internal revolution. Remember, the concept of the revolution mindset is that you're ready to take back your power. You're ready for this internal revolution. Stop giving your power to other people, to external circumstances, and take back the control of your life to live life on your terms. So that is the Becoming a Revolutioner. And we have a few moments for questions before I duck off, take a quick break, and get into our putting it into practice workshop. So I can't see any questions coming through, but if I do see them come through and I catch them on the replay, I'll check the comments box on Facebook and also in our hub. So if you do have any questions, drop them in and I will get back to you. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's tuned in and watched this live, and to everybody who's watching on the replay. I really, really appreciate you, and I look forward to connecting with you next week to talk more about tips and tricks on how we can make these habits how we can make these habits and implement these habits into our lives. Have a wonderful rest of the week, wherever you are in the world, and we'll speak soon.